to the February 6th meeting of the Temple Terrace City Council. It's always nice to see everybody here. I'm sure you love being here after working all day, but we'll keep you let you out as early as we can, I promise. So I'd like to remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices, and if you would please stand and join me in the invocation and the pledge. Lord, we ask you to bless our meeting tonight. Grant us wisdom to make sound decisions for our amazing city. We ask your blessings upon our employees and their families. May they always feel our appreciation for the work they do. We pray also for our legislators in Tallahassee that they advance sound legislation that promotes the common good of all people in our great state. And finally, help us to remember that our finest accomplishments only happen when we work together towards common goals. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So those of you who don't frequently come to our meetings, we have a fairly new tradition where we open our meetings with a interesting or fun fact concerning the city of Temple Terrace or the region that we live in. And so we pass that duty around down the dais so that I don't have to do it every month, thank goodness. So tonight, it's Councilmember Fernandez's turn. So welcome.
Thank you. I want to talk a little bit about the golf course. A lot of you familiar with the city know that the golf course winds through it, but you may not have given it any more thought than that. But Temple Terrace is actually the first planned golf course community in the country, and it's one of 2 golf courses on the National Registry of Historic Places. So it's actually a very well-preserved golf course. So it was designed and built by Tom Bendelow in 1922 on land that wound through what would become the city of Temple Terrace. And Tom Bendelow designed many courses. He's a very well-known golf course designer and designed other golf courses in the Tampa region and designed Temple Terrace. Some of you may notice a lot of streets around the golf courses have Scottish names, and that is because he was from Scotland. So he was partial to that area. So the golf course was an attractor along with the river and the natural landscape to attract people to settle here or at least buy houses and come and be part of the winter community that people from the north enjoyed in Florida. And along with the golf course, they created a luxurious golf country club, and that club is part of Florida College now, but at the time it was the primary place that the people who bought houses, the first houses in the city, would eat. If you know anybody with one of the older Mediterranean revival houses or Spanish-style houses, they have very small kitchens, unless you've remodeled them. And that's because they were expected to take most of their meals at the club. But the country club also was a hotel, and it had rooms that people could stay in. So you didn't have to have a house here, you could be visiting. And the country club was also very involved in the Tampa social scene, so there were a lot of parties and nightlife that happened. And as part of this social scene, we had Club Morocco, which wasn't part of the golf course, but that was a casino, which also attracted people. So it was definitely a happening place. The clubhouse, aside from getting all your meals there and being a hotel, the golf course had, our first pro was Jim Barnes, and Jim Barnes won the PGA Championship in 1916, 1919, the U.S. Open in 1921, and the British Open in 1925. So he was a very well-known golfer. So you can imagine a lot of people were attracted to come to stay at the city or maybe even buy a house to learn golf and play with such a esteemed golfer. In 1925, Temple Terrace, our golf course, was also the site of the, I don't know, this was the first Florida Open. I don't know how long they played it, but we hosted the first one. They also played at Palmacia, but they played rounds at the Temple Terrace golf course. And obviously, that was there were a lot of great golfers that came to play in that tournament. So a lot of our early visitors were golf enthusiasts, although you know that the city was started as a hunting preserve, so I imagine some came just for the natural setting as well. But today, many residents enjoy the golf course by playing golf or exercising or walking their dogs on the sides of the golf course. I won't talk about what the teenagers do on the golf course when it rains heavily, but they enjoy it a lot. And obviously, people bicycle around because the streets that surround the golf course are very scenic and tree-lined. And of course, because we were built so early, our style is different, and our houses are, for the most part, across the street from the golf course and not backing up, which makes the golf course easily accessible to anybody driving around. Everybody can see it. So in 2012, the golf course became the second Florida golf course to be listed on the National Register of Historic Places, which is a really big deal. And one of the reasons they were able to achieve this is that our city is built up as it is around the golf course there, which makes it very difficult to enlarge it. And over the years, as golf interest has come and gone, we haven't actually changed the course measurably. So it's still very close to how it was when it was built in 1922. And that's one of the reasons that it qualified for listing. So it's still a challenging course. I'm not a golfer, and I putt that course really well, but it takes me a long time to play it. So it's challenging for all skill levels today. And it's also a course that people who like to go around to golf courses and play with the hickory clubs that were popular in the 1920s like to play, because our course is so close to the original design. So that's a little more about the golf course that runs through the community, and I hope that was interesting.
Great, thank you. That was really good. Some things you mentioned that I didn't know. So Tom Bendelow wasn't just from Scotland, he was from Aberdeen, Scotland, and I know that because that's where my family's from. So I don't know, maybe my great-grandfather and Tom's father, I don't know, who knows. So, but very good, thank you. So our first item of business is a proclamation for Black History Month, and we have our awesome and esteemed principal from Greco Middle School, Wendy Rauld. Would you like to approach Wendy? She is here to accept the proclamation, which I don't seem to have.
I'll be right back.
Okay. So let's tap dance for a few minutes.
Oh, no worries, no worries. It gives me a good time to give you an update, right?
Very good. Well, why don't you do that? Because I'm hearing wonderful things about Greco, and we have a minute or so while Cheryl goes and gets the proclamation. So.
Absolutely. At least for me, when I think about Black History Month, I think of it as a time for reflection. So I think about my work and how is my work impacting the lives of students, but all students, regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. So I took time and I thought back about when I stood here about 2.5 years ago, right, when I first met you guys, and I was taking over this journey with Greco, and we had a lot of challenges. We had a lot of things to work on. In the first year, we worked on reassociating Greco's behavioral expectations, right? And really diving into what a middle school should look like. And we made a lot of progress, but we also had work to do on the educational side. And throughout that year, I know a lot of people saw what was on the news. They saw the violence. But what they didn't see was we were missing quite a few teachers. So we were averaging 12 teachers out a day. So I wasn't really surprised when we had a D as our school grade that next year. But what we did that year was kept all of our behavioral expectations, but we poured into our teachers. And I know we talked about that. How can we support them? How can we make sure I can't pay anybody more, but how could I work on that work-life balance, right? So, and the working conditions. So we made sure we provided all the supplies teachers needed, site-based PD, we paid them for planning, we planned during the day, like we really took a lot of barriers off of them. And I know that's why we were able to improve our school grade from a D to a C. And happily, I just got some good news on February 1st that we are an official IB World School. So we were officially authorized. So it came perfect time, your email, but I was just really thankful that you guys were able to allow me to come and give you an update in these couple minutes before receiving the proclamation.
Well, that's wonderful. I heard about that progress this week, and so congratulations to you and your team. I know it's been quite a journey for you, so
Thank you.
thank you for all your work there, and thank you for being here tonight to receive the proclamation. And the proclamation reads, whereas Black History Month affords special opportunity to become more knowledgeable about Black heritage and to honor the many Black leaders who have contributed to the progress of our nation. Such knowledge can strengthen the insight of all our residents regarding the issues of human rights, the great strides that have been made in the crusade to eliminate the barriers to equality for minority groups, and the continuing struggle against racial discrimination and poverty. As we journey toward a more united nation, let us use this commemoration of Black History Month to serve as a reminder of the need for meaningful dialogue and shared commitment to actions that uplift and empower all. Now, therefore, I, Andy Ross, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Temple Terrace and on behalf of all the city council, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as Black History Month. So. Would you like to say any comments about this?
Well, thank you. I appreciate you allowing me to come and speak. This is a wonderful honor. Thank you, Mayor Ross. Thank you, City Council. This is awesome. I'm really happy.
We're very happy to have you. So,
There's only two.
we'll stand up here. And try not to break the camera here. I do this.
All right. Thank you.
For being here. You don't have to stay. I know you work over here. Next item of business is an appointment to the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. There's one regular member vacancy on the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the unexpired term of Dennis Barber. The city received one application from Brent Buffington. Mr. Buffington is an active cyclist. He's been a cycling event organizer in Tampa Bay since 2019 and currently runs Tampa Bay Riders, a cycling club. I think Mr. Buffington is here and would like to say a few comments. Would you like to approach? Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to serving both on the Temple Terrace Committee and also for Hillsborough County as our representative. I actually grew up in Temple Terrace and as a kid rode through the streets, and so I'm very familiar with the city. And recently my wife and I just bought a house in the city back in September, so kind of coming back home again full circle. So excited to serve our residents and city on these committees. So.
Very good. And another USF connection too, I believe, right?
Yes, yeah, I did my undergrad at UCF, which I know is oof, but did my master's at USF. So
Very good. Another USF connection, so we love it. So thank you very much. Is there a motion?
Move to approve Brent Buffington for the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Congratulations and thanks for serving. The next appointment is related to this. There is a one-member vacancy on the Hillsborough County Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee for the unexpired term of Jamie Morris. The city received one application from Mr. Brent Buffington for this also. And just to clarify for the public, the first appointment was for our Temple Terrace City Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. This one is for one member of that board to represent the city on the county's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Board. They have almost the exact same name, so it's kind of confusing, but so that's what this is. So is there a motion to approve the appointment of Brent Buffington as a member of the Hillsborough County Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee?
Move to approve Mr. Buffington for the Hillsborough County Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? No nays. Thank you again, Mr. Buffington. So, Madam Clerk, If we can get this information to the county by tomorrow, we can make their cutoff for the BOCC agenda. They're going to put it on the consent agenda, and that would enable Mr. Buffington to be at the next BPAC meeting instead of the following month. So I talked to them today about that, but we have to, they're holding it up, so we have to have it in early. Good. Next is an appointment to the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Council. There is a one-member vacancy on the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Council. The city received an application from Marissa Robinson. Ms. Robinson is a longtime resident of the city of Temple Terrace and currently serving as the city's representative on the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Committee. Ms. Robinson is also a member of the Temple Terrace Centennial Celebration Committee. Again, for a little clarification, because there's several organizations that share almost the exact same name. So she is on the City of Temple Terrace's Centennial Committee. She's also currently on the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Committee. This would be an appointment to the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Council, which is the group that actually votes on delegation of the funding. So a little confusing because everybody's got the same name. So is there a motion to approve the appointment?
Move to approve Marissa Robinson to the Hillsborough County Historical Advisory Council.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays? Don't see Marissa here, but we'll see her in the morning. Please thank her for her volunteerism. One more appointment. This one is to the Hillsborough County Plumbing Board of Adjustment. There's one member vacancy on the Hillsborough County Plumbing Board of Adjustment. The city received one application from Michael Williams. Mr. Williams has over 30 years' experience in the plumbing trade. He most recently served as the city's representative on the Hillsborough County Plumbing Board of Adjustment. I don't know if Mr. Williams is here or not. I don't think so. Okay. Is there a motion?
Yes, move to approve Michael Williams to the Hillsborough County Plumbing Board of Adjustment.
Is there-
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No nays? Mr. Williams is appointed. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes of our January 16th city council meeting? And if so, is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
I don't know who won that one. Okay. Seconded by Councilmember Fernandez. Any corrections or adjustments to the minutes? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. The minutes are adopted. Next, we have persons wishing to be heard on items not listed on the agenda or items on the consent agenda. There are forms in the back of the room for anybody who's present that wishes to address the council. I currently have two, but there's time if you haven't filled one out yet. There is a 3-minute time limit imposed on all comments from the public. We do ask that speakers speak only from the podium and that they begin with their name and city of residence. So I have two currently. The first is Mr. Alan Schechter. Good evening, sir.
Mr. Mayor, council members, do I hit this button?
Nope.
As soon as you give your name and street, and city.
Alan Schechter, North 52nd Street, Temple Terrace. I've communicated with a number of representatives of the city council. The issue is my neighbor to the south, Miss Tatiana Ochoa, is putting up a spite fence, and she has repeatedly tried to get us to move. The spite fence will not only block our view, but it will also destroy the fern hedges that are on the property. She has repeatedly encroached on the property by throwing numerous pieces of junk and over the fence line as well as onto the grass. She has trespassed on the property to throw this junk, as well as to try to demark what she thinks is the property line based upon a survey that she had, which dates back to 2015, which is incorrect, as we purchased the house in 2022 and had the survey done. So our survey is more accurate and current. So we asked the council and the to stay the permitting of the permit from the Miss Tatiana Ochoa, who resides at 12406 North 52nd Street.
Thank you, Mr. Schechter. Next is Mrs. Annette Rennie. Ms. Rennie?
Sorry, I've been out rescuing dogs today, so. Annette Rennie, 9512 Woodland Ridge Drive. I'm here to ask council to please put a sign up at the preserve, what is allowed back there and what is not allowed. Thursday night last week, my friend who was going to be here, Lindsay, but she has family in town, saw a drug exchange between two cars. We found drug paraphernalia, we found alcohol bottles back there, and we found animals that are being ditched. We also have a guy who goes back there and sleeps at night in his car and then gets out early in the morning, as well as a truck that comes on Sunday, I guess because he thinks no one's going to be back there, with motorcycles and uses it with full-size motorcycles, not motorbikes, but motorcycles. So if we could get a sign and a security camera, not a camouflage camera, but at the entry and in the parking lot, I think it would help because it's really getting bad. And there are neighborhoods surrounding that now. We have D.R. Horton, we have our neighborhood, and we have Rolling Terrace, and it's all being seen by people. So please consider a sign and security cameras. Thank you.
Are there other members of the public who wish to address the council? Mrs. Snelling, I saw you look like you were going over to get a form. Good evening.
Give a little update, legislative update. Ellen Snelling, Temple Terrace, and I just wanted to give a little update on legislation regarding Delta 8 THC. And I came here about 2 years ago, and you're the first legislative body that I spoke to about this issue, and you're all very helpful and pointed me in the right direction. And since then I went to the county commission and now Tallahassee for the last couple of years. So last year what happened, let me just kind of give a history. I guess this is for you. Skittles, it's Delta 8 THC. It looks exactly like children's candy, but it had 250 milligrams of THC in it, sold in convenience stores and gas stations. And this was back in the day when it first started, very confusing. Any child would eat this. So a law was passed last year. It started to be in effect on July 1st, and they're not allowed to market like this anymore. No marketing to children and age 21 for sales. But here we are, and there's still a lot of children as well as adults going to the emergency room. So I've been going to stores in Temple Terrace as well as Tampa. And just to give you a couple examples, this is THCA. Now it's not just Delta 8. There's about probably 20 different forms. But THCA, rainbow worms, this really shouldn't be sold because it's worms, which is supposed to be not acceptable, any kind of an animal shape, and then the rainbow colors. But 1,000 milligrams. So this was 250, now it's 1,000. And that was a few months ago. And then the latest I found is this is 7,000 milligrams just in one package. And you could see the bright colors and fruit flavors, still very attractive to children. And then my last one, it has a picture of a slushie on it, blue raspberry slushie. And just one, there's only one in here, it has 1,000 milligrams just in the one gummy. So I've been bringing this up to Tallahassee to talk at legislative committees. And there's two bills working their way through. SB 1698 went all the way through both Senate committees, is ready to go to the floor, and it does set a pretty strict limit on THC. None of these products would be legal if it goes through all the way and signed by the governor. And in the House, 1638 has gone through one committee, has to go through two more. So just wanted to give you an update and thank you all for your support right at the beginning of all this.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mrs. Snelling, and thanks for your work on this. Appreciate that. Other members of the public? Okay, very good. We will now move into public hearings. First up is a public hearing and first reading of Ordinance 1559, adopting rezoning of Folio 200762-0000 and addressed as 6009 Whiteway Drive from the R10 zoning district to the P/QP zoning district. I'll open the public hearing and ask anyone who intends to speak on this matter to please stand for the oath administered by the clerk. You're ahead of me.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay, very good. City Attorney, would you please poll the council for ex parte communications?
If any member of council has had any ex parte communication regarding this matter, please state what that is now. If you have received anything in writing, then a copy of that needs to be given to the clerk for the record, and that would need to be done either now or as soon after this meeting as possible. I'm going to start with Council Member Fernandez, and if you have received any ex parte communication, then you need to state with whom that was and what the sum and substance of it was and when that took place. You may begin.
I have none.
I've had none.
I've had none to my knowledge. I have mentioned this project in group civic during presentations, but I've never had a back and forth conversation from any of those audience members.
Okay, so nobody has contacted you to
No.
discuss this?
No.
Okay,
I have had none.
thank you.
Very good. Community Development Director Mike Sherman is here to explain.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So tonight, for the council's consideration, is a request to amend the official zoning map from the R10 single-family residential zoning district to the public quasi-public zoning district on approximately 4.8 acres of land located at 6009 Whiteway Drive. And that is the city's utilities, facilities, service center, as well as we have our water treatment plant facilities behind the building itself. This zoning map amendment will allow for the redevelopment of the existing facility, and this will improve customer service for the utilities and engineering departments, and it will relocate our IT department out there as well. The intent of the project is to construct a wind-rated hardened facility to house administration, maintenance personnel within the water and wastewater sections, as well as I said, the engineering and IT staff. So this is a general area map. The map on the left shows the location on Whiteway Drive. It's, as I said, the current zoning is R10. The proposed zoning is public, quasi-public, and it's about 4.8 acres. These are the property information for it. The applicant in this instance is the City of Temple Terrace Utilities Department. And the proposed use is to upgrade the facility to provide better service to our citizens and to have it hardened. Here's the surrounding zoning districts and uses. This is squarely in the middle of a R10 district, which is a single-family zoning district. The R10 district allows for some public type uses, so it's not it is a conforming use. It's compatible or consistent with the comprehensive plan in the existing zoning category it is right now. And the purpose of this district primarily, I said, is residential. It does allow for some utility or city facilities as well as healthcare facilities. And what we're trying to do is rezone this because we feel like it's really a better zoning district. The quasi-public district really is for larger public uses. And this, since we're creating a 12,000 square foot facility, the existing one's going to be torn down, but we feel like it's consistent. The majority of city properties that have facilities like this are zoned public, quasi-public, and would be specifically permitted under the city zoning district. These are the yard regulations. It's going to meet all those yard regulations as well. It's got the minimum acres, the width of the road, or width of the property at the road. The height is going to be less than 50 feet of this structure, and it's going to meet all our setback regulations. So this is just sort of just a synopsis on why we think we should change it. The change really furthers the comprehensive plan. It's the quasi-public, public quasi-public zoning district is specifically allowed under the future land use map category of public semi-public. It's going to allow more flexibility in creative site design, and it's one of the things that's important about this is it's got some specific buffering and landscaping and wall requirements. It's going to protect the adjacent single-family residential districts. And really, another thing is at a glance, you know, one thing our zoning map and the future land use map should do is when a citizen or somebody is looking to see what land uses are around in the city, if they just looked at this on a map, it would say R10, and they're going to think it's single-family residential. The public quasi-public district really reflects more of the city's uses on that property and gives a better idea at a glance of what's going on that site. These are the boundary surveys of the entire property. This is a topographic and tree survey and boundary survey of the front portion. Now, the new facility is going to be on the northern part of that facility. It's going to bring it a little bit closer to the street than what the existing building is right now. One of the issues and challenges we've been having is there's a really massive oak tree on that property. We're going to do all we can to save that. So this is our protection plan. Right now we've showed the building moved out in front of the tree, and our arborist is working with another arborist to make sure that when the construction begins, that tree will be protected. And as you can see, that's our conceptual site plan. Once we get further along and the rezoning is hopefully approved, we'll come back with a site plan for the city to consider, and you'll see the final site plan, the location of the buildings, the buffers, the landscaping, and how we have intended to protect that tree. On November 14th, the Planning Commission staff reviewed this and found it consistent with the comprehensive plan. Staff's recommendation is for approval on first reading of the ordinance, adopting the rezoning classification to change it from R10 to public, quasi-public zoning district. And I can attempt to answer any questions that the council may have or anybody from the public.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Are there members of the public who wish to comment on this item? Okay, council members, questions? Yes, Councilmember Fernandez.
Well, it's more so that you can have this public, but this is really just adding a building. This is not changing any of the utility usage and the utility structures on the.
Yes, ma'am, you're correct. This will be like offices. The industrial part where we treat the water, that's not going to change. It's just this service facility. You know, unless you knew there was the building gone, there's going to be no additional traffic. There'll be no off-site impacts. So, yes, ma'am, it's just putting a new building. The program's really not going to change for that site.
Other questions? I have one. So I know this building is being funded with federal dollars that we secured. Is the cost of this rezoning chargeable to that also, or is this rezoning something that we have to pay for? And we got the funding to build the building and all the engineering and all that, but does this cost fold into that?
I think a lot of this cost is being absorbed, it's internal to our staff, but yes, any costs like this I would contemplate to be like engineering and design costs, that would be part of the overall project.
Okay, so the rezoning is not a financial impact to our budget per se, maybe a little bit here and there, but not.
Not anything tremendous that I'm aware of.
Nope.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, if that's the case, I'll close the public hearing and ask the clerk to read the title of the ordinance.
An ordinance of the City of Temple Terrace, Florida, rezoning 4.8 plus minus acres of real property located on the south side of Whiteway Drive, approximately 1,300 feet east of the intersection of North 56th Street and Whiteway Drive, and across the street from Ridgedale Road, addressed as 6009 Whiteway Drive, folio number 200762-0000, from zoning classification residential 10 to public/quasi-public for rezoning 23-03, providing for the amendment to the official zoning map of the city, providing for severability, providing for repeal of all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. If the ordinance is acceptable, is there a motion?
Move to approve on first reading ordinance 1559 adopted rezoning folio 200762-0000 on Whiteway Drive.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion of the motion.
I just have one comment.
Yes.
I'm going to be anxious to see how you guys preserve that tree. That is a weird shaped oak, live oak in the front there.
It is, but it's a live oak that's wild, that
Yeah.
grew like that just all on its own.
That's got one incredible branch that goes out to the side. So I'll be curious to see how you successfully do that. But good. I'm glad you're at least working that direction.
That's our attempt. We're going to sure try and save it if we can.
Very good. Other discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? No nays. Ordinance is adopted on first reading and will appear for second reading and public hearing on Tuesday, February the 20th, 2024. Next is a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance partially vacating Hyacinth Drive. Did I say that right? Hyacinth Drive? Okay, good. Open the public hearing, and our Utilities Director, Troy Tinch, is here to explain.
Good evening, Your Honorable Mayor, City Council. I'm here this evening to actually request a continuance for this particular ordinance. We've had a number of conversations as of late with the City Attorney's Office to make sure that we are vacating the existing right-of-way and also placing an easement over that particular right-of-way. We have finally come to a solution that we think will work best. Unfortunately, we're not able to get that in time for this first reading. So we're asking for a continuance of this particular ordinance to the first meeting in March 5th. I will stand for any questions that you may have regarding this continuance request.
Thank you, Mr. Tinch. So we do have a public comment portion of this. However, all public comment is now shifted and needs to be related directly to the request for continuance, not on the vacation of the right-of-way. So if there are members of the public who wish to comment on the request for continuance, this would be the time to come forward. I see one. Yes, sir. Just please remember, we're only addressing the continuance, not the issues. Right. And we just need your name and city of address, please.
Hello.
Hello.
Becker, 11721 Primrose Lane. I was understanding that the continuance was going to be February the 20th. That's all my question is. Is it going to be now March the 5th?
I don't know. We'll figure, I'm going to ask that same question.
Okay.
Yep. Good question. Thank you. Are there other members of the public who wish to comment on the request for continuance? Okay. So could you speak to that? Because I think we were going to ask the same thing.
Absolutely. So we were trying to get everything put together, and now we realize we need to have a resolution accompanying this ordinance. So we're going to need to work on writing that up, and we wanted to make sure we had enough time to get it through the proper procedures and get it to you in time for review. And staff feels that allowing that continuance to the 5th would better work with that schedule because it is kind of tight. We would have to have everything done by the end of this week, so that we meet the timelines required for city council meetings. So that's why we were extending it to the 5th.
Okay. Does that answer your question, sir?
That's the date.
Okay.
We will also be, presenting this information for the public notices. So when we redo the public notice, that information will be on the placard that will be out on site.
Okay.
And also in a newspaper.
Very good. Council members, questions related to the continuance?
We need a motion.
We will, but now's the time for questions first, yes.
I just have one question.
Councilmember Fernandez.
For the parties that are involved in this, has there been any comment about the timing? Has anybody said that's too far into the future, that it would impact their property planning?
To my knowledge, there's been no concerns. We did reach out to the property owner who's making the initial request and let them know that we would have the continuance, and they indicated that would not be an issue.
That's it.
Questions? Any other questions? Okay.
I double-checked with legal today, and because we're continuing and not closing the public hearing, there won't be a new ad for the first hearing.
So what is being sought is a motion to continue this hearing until March 5th.
That's correct.
Okay. Council is,
And when the motion is made, we need to state the dates, so it would be good to state that the first reading will be on March the 5th, and that the second one will be, was it the 20th? 19th, on the 19th, and state the location and the time, so.
you got that? You have the pen.
Okay, way to go. All right, I opened my mouth. Move to continue the first public hearing of the ordinance for providing a partial vacation closure discontinuance of Hyacinth Drive, moving it to the 5th of March, with a second reading on the 19th of March at City Council chambers at the 6 o'clock meeting.
Right, second.
Motion and a second. Discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. First reading serves March 5th. Second reading is March 19th.
Can I ask a question? Or is it too late?
We'll try. We'll see what the question is.
I found out today from the city planner that this vacated right-of-way, Hyacinth is a street that's not there. It was deeded a long time ago. But that the vacated right-of-way is also going to extend past 86011 Oleander. And those people have never been notified by mail, and I just didn't feel that was right. I understand the one landowner at 11705 who has asked for this deeded right-of-way to be closed. Their land is their land property exists, but they are also trying to extend it past their property line.
Gotcha.
That landowner at 8711 Oleander knows nothing about it.
Okay. Well, our staff will, yep. Oh, you can address it now. Okay.
So we sent a certified letter to 8711 Oleander, so they will have the information regarding the right-of-way vacation.
Okay.
I talked to her today. She didn't know about it.
Okay. Nope.
Follow
Well,
up with her.
thanks for being here and thanks for bringing up those points. Okay. We already passed the motion. I will not close the hearing because it was continued, not closed. And the city clerk had bets on whether I'd remember to do that right or not. Next is a resolution approving the city's revised land disposal policy for the sale and disposal of surplus real estate. And our city manager, Carlos Bahia, will explain.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So back in 2019, the City Council adopted a resolution creating a policy for how we dispose of surplus property. And in that policy, it's largely centered around going through a competitive bid process, and that works perfectly for most instances. But there are times when we may encounter slivers of property, or we're dealing, for example, with a private property owner who may have a little bit of city land right behind their basically extension of their yard, and has made a request, for example, to acquire that. And it really wouldn't interest anyone else besides that particular property owner, or perhaps the neighboring property as well. So in those cases, it seems like the policy we have would be a little bit onerous because it requires us to go out competitively bid this. There's a lot of paperwork involved with that, also uncertainty to the person making the request, because again, I don't think they want to know now that somebody else is going to buy the sliver of land behind their backyard. So we also have instances where after different projects, we may have, again, just little remnant pieces here and there, again, which wouldn't really typically be marketable, except for people usually in the vicinity. Or, for example, if we're doing a transaction with FDOT for something, we may give up a little bit of land in exchange for a project that they're doing that requires a little bit of space. So what we are proposing this evening, and I want to thank Jeannie Barlow, my executive assistant, for actually putting this together. She was proactive with this, is a policy change that would dictate that if there are those instances that I just referred to, that you would allow me the discretion to negotiate with the parties involved, come up with a good faith means of assessing a value to that piece of land, and then working with the city attorney to draft an agreement that would come to you for your approval. So we would never sell land without the council seeing it, but the difference would be we wouldn't go through a competitive bid in those limited instances. We would just negotiate this. I'd advise you of it, and then in a public setting, you'd agree or not agree, I guess, to sell it, depending on the will of the council. So that's pretty much the change we're recommending this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Council?
Do we have a lot of these little pieces?
I wouldn't say a lot, but every community ends up getting remnants like this over time. We're actually in negotiation right now with a property owner who is will be the test case for this if we make this change. Again, he has a little bit of a sliver of land that's left over behind his property. It was a sliver that extended beyond a series of homes, and over time it's been disposed of, but this person was left with the one remaining piece. So I would think, Mr. Tinch, we probably have, what, half dozen of these maybe throughout the city? Yeah.
So, Mr. B, you and I talked at length about this the other day too, and another possibility would be if you put out an RFP for some of these, and some of it may be just a sliver of land that only adjoins somebody's backyard. In many cases, they might not even know it's not theirs already, but somebody could come along if they had an axe to grind with that person and bid some ridiculous amount of money to either drive the price up or to acquire it so that that person can't do whatever. So I remember when we passed this ordinance to begin with, it was because of some habitat homes that were sold that we didn't really approve of the way that that transaction went. But we didn't really envision this when we wrote that ordinance. So other questions? Yes. Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Fernandez.
So the competitive bid process is designed so that city residents can know that the most care was given to get the best value for the property that the city is selling. So how would we establish a value for a piece of property that we may have paid a certain amount of dollars for, but on the open market may not be worth that because it doesn't have the wider market interest? So, how would we go about establishing that we are using public land in the most fair way possible and getting the best dollar that we can get under those circumstances?
So there's probably no one answer to that question, because I've actually done these in my former community. I did probably 2 or 3 of these, and every instance was slightly different. I've used, for example, assessed value. I've gone back and looked at recent sales in the neighborhood, for example, using assessed value, use a per square foot number. We've bartered back and forth, not bartered, but negotiated back and forth with an owner. I'll say, I'll go, I'll give one value, we'll go back and forth to a number that I think would be reasonable for the community to consider. Again, in a lot of these cases, these are properties that they're not productive properties. They're just sitting there. And in many instances, the property owner is probably the one taking care of it to begin with, maintaining it, because otherwise it would just overgrow, because the city, we're not going to get out and take care of these little pieces here and there. So I take that into consideration as well. The fact that this property is being maintained, and this will only continue because now it's part of their land. So I can't give you one specific answer. What I would say is whatever means that I would use to calculate that, I would put that in the report to the city council, so you would have a comfort level as to knowing, like, this is how I came to this value. If you decided that wasn't the way you'd prefer, you obviously could do that at the meeting, and we could say we could put it on hold. You could vote no, whatever you want to do, but the ultimate discretion is yours. It's not mine. I'm just going to make a recommendation to you.
Thank you.
We could also, if there was a property owner that was adjacent to the parcel, if they are requesting to purchase it, we could also require them to get it appraised.
Other questions? Okay, good discussion. Is there a motion?
Move to approve resolution revising the policy for the sale and disposal of surplus real property to provide city manager with discretion and authority to negotiate the sale.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays. Resolution's adopted, Mr. Bia. Any carryover council business? I have one item here, certainly not in my job description to tell anybody how to dress, and I would not presume to do that. However, I would suggest that for our strategic planning meeting tomorrow night, that I think probably business casual would be appropriate. I've communicated that to Dr. Will. We are having more of a workshop environment. Of course, it's open to the public, but it is more of a workshop environment. So dress however you want, but I will not be in a tie. So, any other carryover council business? Okay, new business or board reports?
I do have, this relates to the public comment from earlier this evening. First of all, Ms. Snelling, thank you. I know you've been working very diligently with this, County Commission, Tallahassee, everything all up and down. So thank you for the efforts that you've put forth in this. I've seen the progress that you've made, and it just shows that with dedication and efforts, you can get done what you need to get done. And I know some of these packaging replicas of candy, I have little grandchildren who aren't going to read that it's Delta, whatever, THC, and it's a Skittle, it's a Skittle. So thank you as a citizen, thank you for what you've done. My second point, it would be regarding Ms. Rennie's comments about the preserve. Can we do something with this? Is it, it's, how difficult would it be for us to move forward with this? Or can we just say, do what you can with it?
So we have some signage out there today, which we put up several months ago for a different activity that was raised, actually, I think, by Ms. Rennie at one of the meetings. We'll look at signage. The issue or the challenge with cameras at that facility is that there's no power there. So we'd have to bring power from quite a distance away to actually have we use trail cameras. Those are different types of entities. I think what Ms. Rennie's suggesting is more of a monitor type camera, and that would be a larger investment than I, at this point, would feel comfortable recommending to the council. But we will look, like what we do for any of the public, we will look into what the public said at the meeting here. We'll talk to Mr. Langfield, and I will probably talk tomorrow about this, okay. And we'll come back to you with some sort of an update as to what we're going to do.
That's good. Thank you.
Other new business, board reports. I have one other item real quick to mention. So the Brightline proposed, the proposed extension of Brightline from Orlando to Tampa. I'm sure you've been reading about this. In my role on the TPO and also in our visits to Tallahassee and constant back and forth there is an effort to include $50 million in the state budget to be given to FDOT to do preliminary work in the median of I-4 as they do other work on the interstate. They would add that to the scope of work to prepare the median for the future expansion of the track. That idea was first championed by County Commissioner Mike Owen. It is sponsored in the House. It's not a bill number connected to it because it's appropriations request, part of the budget process. It's being carried in the House by Representative Karen Gonzalez Pittman. I don't know what the chances are or not. I can tell you that the House and the Senate are far off on the budget right now, so I don't know. We have talked to, Carlos and I talked to representatives from Brightline and about the importance of this project, and it's important to the entire region. I mean, obviously the Brightline station wouldn't come to Temple Terrace, it would come to Ybor, but it is important for the entire region, not just Tampa. And so I would like your permission, I guess is the right word, to write a letter in support of that appropriations. I don't know if it will go anywhere or not, but I think it's important that we speak regionally for topics like that that are important to everybody. Whether it makes it or not, I'm hearing elevator talk right now that it may not make it until next year, which would not be terrible either. But getting this letter of support in there would be, it certainly won't hurt. Yes, Councilmember Fernandez.
So generally speaking, I think that this kind of transportation can be a good thing. However, my concern is this self-sustaining? Because I'm not necessarily in favor of a subsidized train, the high-speed rail or whatever the mechanism is, because if it ends up subsidized, I mean, I just think a lot of people won't be attracted to it. So I don't necessarily think that that is a good use of tax dollars. So, I mean, that's my concern, because I can tell you right now, every time we drive to Orlando, my husband works there all the time, my son works there. They drive because they have to go to so many different places. They're not going to take a train. And if we go for the weekend, we're not taking a train because we're going to different places. So my personal opinion, if it's, depending on how it's executed, it could be a good thing, but I mean, I'd be concerned that we're just throwing money in to build something that won't have any riders.
Well, I don't know that I can fully answer that. I mean, Brightline is a private endeavor. Now, do they get federal highway dollars or DOT? I don't know that, and will they ever get federal or DOT dollars? I don't know that I can really answer that, so I'm not sure. I can't give you that guarantee that that wouldn't ever happen. It may be happening now. I don't know exactly what their funding streams are.
I mean, I'm just concerned about, when you look at like the streetcar, it doesn't have a lot of ridership. But it's a novelty, and it's a good thing tourism-wise in this area. But this is not that kind of novelty and attractor, so I wouldn't want to, I just wouldn't want to spend the money on something that people aren't going to use.
Well, what I can tell you, though, is that where the Brightline has gone through in Palm Beach and up to Orlando and where it exists now, the economic development around those stations is very real and very immediate. That's the officials from Palm Beach, when you talk to them, they will tell you this has been a real engine for us here. All the places, because everybody wants to develop around this.
Every station.
And so I know that Tampa, and all the folks in Ybor, all the business community, the West Shore Alliance, the Downtown Business Partnership, they're all very much in support of this because of the economic development that always follows this. Now, ridership, I don't know. I can't answer that. But I do know that the economic development that occurs in the areas of the route is real. That's demonstrated. In fact, on a much smaller scale, even PSTA, when they've moved some of their express bus routes, they've seen the same thing. So I don't know in terms of ridership whether public transportation ever pays for itself. I don't think it probably does. But you do see the downstream benefits of every business wants to be around that, so you'll see that. So, but I don't know how
I can
to.
support that. I'm just saying I don't want to just support
Right.
generic, let's give everybody money. But if you can say are demonstrable benefits coming from this type of investment, then I favor it.
Okay. There's also the economy of scale, which DOT keeps speaking of, and that is if they have contractors out there already working on that section of the road, it's cheaper to include these modifications while they're there than it is to put a separate project out, because now you've got to mobilize all the equipment and everything like that. So it's entirely up to you, but I don't know how to answer some of your concerns. Yes?
It will be subsidized ultimately. There's not a rail line in the country that's not in some way subsidized, whether it's the federal level all the way down to, I doubt it'd be any kind of local subsidies, because this county's been very emphatic on no taxes for rails, for years and years and years. My only concern is that they don't try to use the discretionary tax monies that are already rat-holed up in Tallahassee for that $50 million, because hopefully that gets allocated to existing entities and projects throughout the district. That'd be my only concern with that. But I agree that we should, as a community, get behind it, because as you say, if you've ever been to on the Bright Line, wherever you go, every station has the development around it, and it is a lightning rod, as a catalyst for that area. And we will benefit from it. There'll be people coming from Orlando to Tampa and Tampa to Orlando. It's not going to be like in Philly or with SEPTA, where you can actually go from here to there and you can get all over the place on the trains. It's going to be 4, 5, 6 trains a day that are going to be, back and forth, and then you'll be able to branch out from the individual stations. But I think we should get behind it and work towards it.
Vice Mayor?
I'd like to offer my enthusiastic support for that letter, and I hope I get to ride it within the next 20 years.
Well, I don't know about that.
Are you okay with this?
I am okay with this, knowing that there's an investment value. I don't want to ask them to take this money that might have gone to other projects, maybe some projects that we're looking to do, like such as a bridge over the river, a walking trail or something that would get immeasurable use by our residents for something that people aren't going to use. But if there's a value associated with it, even though there might not be great ridership, that we are not bearing the brunt of a lack of financial support that we would like for our projects, then I don't have a problem supporting it.
Well, I think that's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up, because that's the whole purpose of this additional appropriations request, is to prevent that. That's why we're trying to get the additional funding to do the groundwork, so that we don't have to take it out of FDOT's pot of money that exists, because that will be the alternative. And if that happens, then that could impact the West Shore Interchange or some of the large projects we have. So this is a request for them to fund this over and above FDOT's current. So that much I can answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm all for it, and I would look forward to the ride in 20 years with the Vice Mayor.
All right. Well, I just don't want to do it unless we have everybody.
No,
Okay.
I'm fine with that, based
Okay.
on what we've discussed.
Okay. Could somebody make a motion to authorize me to do that?
I move to authorize the mayor to write a letter in support of
The $50 million
the $50 million
appropriation.
for the Bright Line.
Second.
Thank you.
Seconded by Councilmember Chambers. And any further discussion? Everybody's good? I don't want to do this if everybody's not on board.
No.
Okay. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No nays? Thank you. I shall do that. Any other new business? Okay, city manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In your backup this evening, there are 3 items. There is a quarterly update for the first quarter fiscal year 24 of the council fiscal year priorities, second report on the budget goals as well, and then a third one, which is the actual versus budgeted financials. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I'd just like to highlight one particular item, which is the work that Mr. Warrenfeltz has done with our sanitation fund. The numbers, actually, Jim Ingram, our finance director, was in a meeting with me last week, and he was actually smiling, that's great for a finance director to smile, because he said, wow, the sanitation fund, for the first time in a long time, looks like it's on a positive track. And I think that's largely owed to the work that Mr. Warrenfeltz has done. There's a lot more work still to be done, so we're not sure what it will mean for the rate setting, but we still got several months before that. But we're on a good path, much better than what we thought we'd be at this time last year. So I want to thank him and recognize him. And aside from that, again, happy to answer any questions.
Questions? I'd just like to comment, Mr. B, that this is a long report, and I know that most members of the public or those watching may not want to take the time to go through something that is that long. But I want to commend you and your team. It has been a long time since we have had a leadership team in place that responds to the priorities established by the council and breaks that into measurable tasks and chips away at these goals throughout the year. Usually by the time we get to Q2, nobody even remembers what the goals had been. And so as a result of this, if you spend some time reading this report, the council priorities have been broken down by what every department is doing in furtherance of those goals. And, you know, all of the goals, you talk about IT, well, what does IT have to do with it? But those goals are transcending all across the board. And so as a result, I'd like the public to understand that nobody wants to read all the details in the backup material, but that's where you see the good stuff. And there's some really tremendous work going on here. We have moved this city forward light years already, and we're only a few years into this. And so I just want to thank you and you for the work that you're doing. I know sanitation we mentioned, but I know what all of you are doing. Sounds a little creepy, but I do. And thank you for all that you're doing, and I appreciate that, and thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I speak for the entire team, and we appreciate the support the council gives us to do this work. So we're going to keep plugging away. I have nothing else.
City Attorney.
I have one lien reduction or lien settlement to report. This involved 7460 Terrace River Drive. This concerned two different citations. One was initially for an inoperative motor vehicle in the driveway. It had an expired tag. It had sat there for some time. The lien amount was finally $3,100. The city costs involved were $304.04. So this was ultimately settled for $614.04. That recovered all of the city's costs plus another $310. The second violation was a repeat of the first. The lien amount was $750, and because it was a repeat, we did not reduce that. The settlement amount finally was $750 plus the city's costs of $259.04. So that was a total of $1,009.04. So with the two, both of them were now settled for $1,623.08. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Schoen. Any questions, council? Okay, any other business to come before the council? Anything else? Anything? Okay, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.
Oh, I have a stack here.
Oh.